In this film, we'll be demonstrating the process of applying Whitaker Oil Klear Kote Epoxy to a wood project surface. This will include all of the personal protection equipment you'll need for your project. You will also find details on how to prepare your surface, create your Klear Kote mixture, and how to appropriately apply the epoxy to your project surface. To ensure proper safety, make sure to wear safety glasses, gloves, and a protective apron at all times while handling any Klear Kote products. To prepare the project surface, the following equipment will be needed: 220 grit sandpaper, a cleaning solvent such as denatured alcohol, a clean shop towel, a bubble level, and plastic sheeting. For wood project surfaces, begin by lightly sanding all sides using a fine coursed sandpaper such as 220 grit. This process will prepare the surface for the seal coat application. Next, apply a small amount of cleaning solvent to your shop towel and wipe the entire area of your project surface. Wipe down all areas of your surface where Klear Kote Epoxy will be applied. For the Klear Kote preparation process, make sure to have the following items: graduated containers, a paint stir stick, Klear Kote hardener, Klear Kote resin. When mixing Klear Kote hardener and resin, it is important to add the correct amounts of each product to ensure a quality finish. Refer to this coverage chart for the appropriate volume to surface area ratios. When creating any Klear Kote epoxy mixture, always begin by pouring Klear Kote epoxy hardener first, followed by the resin. Once equal amounts of Klear Kote hardener and resin have been poured, begin mixing the solution with a paint stir stick. Make sure to stir in a steady, fluid manner as to avoid introducing air into the mixture. Stir continuously while sweeping the sides and bottom of the mixing container, ensuring that both the hardener and resin are equally mixed together. Allow mix to stand for 3 to 5 minutes and then remix for approximately 3 seconds. Transfer the completed mixture into a new graduated mixing container for the final pour. Doing so will eliminate any unmixed portions and ensure the final volume to be exact as possible. It is now time to apply the seal coat to the project surface. To do so, you'll need a foam brush and a propane torch. Starting at one end of the table, pour the mixture onto the surface in a zigzag motion, gradually working your way to the other side of the surface. For best results, evenly distribute the epoxy mixture across the surface when pouring the seal coat. Once the entire contents of the graduated container have been transferred to the surface, use a dust-free foam brush to spread the epoxy. The epoxy will naturally run down the sides of your surface and form drips. Left untouched, these drips will harden and may be difficult to remove later on. In order to avoid any unnecessary work after the epoxy is hardened, use the foam brush or paint stir stick to wipe away any drips. Once the epoxy has been evenly applied across the entire surface, you'll notice tiny air bubbles trapped within the mixture. In order to remove the air bubbles, wait at least 10 minutes after application and then pass the flame of a propane torch systematically over the surface. Make sure to keep the flame 6 to 8 inches away while using caution to not heat the surface. Repeat this process as necessary until no bubbles remain. The surface will now show a glass-like finish. Allow the tabletop to cure for at least 6 hours before applying the flood coats. Now that the seal coat is cured, it's time to apply the flood coat. If you choose to apply the flood coat outside of 36 hours, very light sanding, known as scuff sanding, will be necessary. For this specific project, we'll be applying a metal logo beneath the flood coat. we will use our Whitaker Oil Epoxy glue kit to adhere the logo to the surface. Now that the glue has fully cured, we can prepare the flood coat mixture. Once again, you will first pour the desired amount of Whitaker Oil Epoxy hardener into your mixing container, followed by the resin. As stated previously during the seal coat process, in order to achieve best results, it is imperative to create a 1-to-1 ratio for the flood coat mixture. Refer to this chart for more details regarding volume to surface area ratios, as they will differ from the seal coat measurements. Using the same stirring technique mentioned earlier, use the paint stir stick to mix the resin and hardener. When mixing, maintain a fluid motion and be sure to sweep the sides and bottom of the mixing container. Transfer the mixture into a second container before applying the epoxy to the surface of the table. Evenly distribute the epoxy mixture down the length of the surface top. Use a foam brush to disperse the epoxy across the surface, creating a uniform and even layer. Make sure to cover all edges and corners and remove any drips that form around the bottom edges of the surface. After allowing the epoxy to sit for at least 10 minutes, pass the flame of the propane torch over the surface to remove any air bubbles. Once all bubbles have been released, the surface will display a glass-like finish. Allow the flood coat to cure for 12 to 14 hours in an environment warmed to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The surface will be ready for light use within 2 to 3 days. Allow 2 to 3 weeks for normal, everyday use. Thank you for watching this film on how to use Whitaker Oil Klear Kote Epoxy to create beautiful glass-like finishes for your home and commercial surfaces.